The following is a paid program. Talk 103.7 WTIP and Cable Channel 7 welcome you into Financially Speaking with Jim Taunton. Find us live on radio, TV, the IBX Media app, and on YouTube. Just search Financially Speaking NC or get the link at WTIPFM.com. The opinions expressed in this show are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities and investment advisory services are offered through Genois Wealth Management Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Now, here's your host for Financially Speaking, certified financial advisor, Jim Taunton.
Welcome to Financially Speaking. Jim Taunton here. And those watching on YouTube channel can see I have a guest tonight, Louis Navellier. He's been on several times. He hits about every financial program there is under the sun. We are privileged to have him. Therefore, Mr. Producer, be advised that we will not be cutting to a break either beginning or mid-program, so we can give Louis all the time that he needs. How you doing, Louis?
I'm doing good.
Good. You seem to be doing good. I see you a whole lot in videos, and just for the audience, they can sign up for your services and receive your videos by email several times a week and be informed, know what's going on. So I would highly recommend they do that.
Yeah, we have a service called Navellier Market Mail. Just www.navellier.com, and then they can also go to YouTube. You get Navellier Market Buzz. That's a weekly show, and then there's links there to our stock grader and all kinds of good stuff.
All kinds of good stuff. You will more than make your money back. What it costs you.
We'll try.
That's what we're telling them anyway. First thing, Louis, we'll spend about 30 seconds on this, but I just found it pretty hilarious. The Lisa Cook debacle, a clerical error. Now, a clerical error, to me, is a misspelling of a word. It's not claiming three primary residences. So, if I made the same kind of mistake and told the officials, it was a clerical error, I'd be in handcuffs more than likely. What say you?
Yeah, I'm an ex-banking regulator, and this is pretty egregious for a banking regulator to lie on her mortgage application. So I don't see how she wiggles out of this. She's just been charged by the Department of Justice, and she can't pretend to be that stupid, okay? I don't think that's possible. She was a DEI hire. She votes with a consensus, so she's just a pawn of the Fed chairman. I'm sure she'll vote to cut this time if she's even at the meeting on September 16th and 17th. There was another Biden appointee that could even show up at the last meeting, and she resigned. And then of course, Trump's her replacement was today in the Senate, so that was interesting. So, they were handing out jobs to unqualified people, and I definitely think Lisa Cook is that camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on. That's really not an important issue right now. My big question right now, Louis, is will tariffs be upheld by the Supreme Court? What do you think?
Probably. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said they have contingency plans if they get defeated on some of the tariffs. The court challenge to the tariffs doesn't include all of them, just a minority of them. But Scott Bessent has, Plan B. So I wouldn't worry about this too much. I think the only thing that's controversial is Trump is conducting foreign policy through tariffs. So a good example is we have a trade surplus with Brazil, but Brazil is prosecuting former President Bolsonaro right now and trying to throw him in jail, just like Lula da Silva was in jail for 430 days. And Trump wants to end that prosecution. Apparently, this Supreme Court justice in Brazil is much more powerful than any president. And Lula da Silva throws up his hand saying, Trump doesn't respect me and there's nothing I can do, and blah, blah, blah. But the Brazilian politics is much more divisive than our politics, and it has much bigger consequences. So, but he put a 50% tariff on Brazil, and he exempted orange juice and aircraft parts. I recommend Embarcadero, a little regional jet manufacturer. So it had a little whoop-de-doo while people feared these big tariffs. But I don't think Lula da Silva and Trump are going to talk. Lula da Silva is in bed with China. He went over to Shanghai and told everybody to stop trading dollars, use the Chinese yuan, even though China has no interest rates and might have to devalue their currency. And then India has a long-term history of trading with Russia. And now Trump's trying to get India to stop buying Russian oil. The conundrum India has is they are the only ones set up to refine that heavy sour crude from Russia. Okay. And again, their trading goes back centuries. Now, Russia's exporting a lot less oil to India right now because Ukraine's blown up one of their terminals and key pipelines. And so there's been a big disruption of up to 600,000 barrels a day. But, the Indian prime minister was, guess what, with President Putin, Kim Jong-il of North Korea, and then, of course, President Xi from China. So these two relationships are strained because Trump's putting big tariffs in these countries as he exerts foreign policy. And we'll see if that can be upheld. Okay, obviously he's going to argue national security and things like that. So this will be interesting. Those are the two most controversial to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like we have another axis of evil forming with Russia, China, and India, but India is not exactly to that extreme, but a little scary to see these three chumming up.
Yeah, and actually Bloomberg did a good report. I think the U.S. economy was still about 35% bigger than those three countries combined. So they might be trying to create a block, but they've got other problems. The only good thing India has is demographics. All the other countries, China and Russia, are shrinking at an acute pace. Putin did tell the women in Russia to have up to 9 children. And of course, the women in Russia said, we're the men, because guess what? They're all fighting and dying, minor detail. Yeah. So, we are in a situation where Asia may shrink because of a lack of household formation. Believe it or not, Japan has the highest birth rate in Asia. You would think it would be in Indonesia or Malaysia. I mean, Indonesia, you can have 4 wives, okay? And I don't know why they would have a low birth rate, but they do. And I'm not recommending that, by the way. But so Asia can't grow right now. Northern Europe is shrinking, okay? Spain is growing from immigration. They welcome immigration. But the bottom line is, you have to assimilate your immigrants, okay? And Britain, France, and Germany are no longer doing that. Of course, they've also been overrun. And it's ironic that the countries that are paying the fines to the EU, like Poland and Hungary, are probably saving themselves a lot of money because the EU controls their borders, not their own country. So I would not be surprised if the EU implodes. And, of course, this week we had the bond vigilantes anticipating political changes in Britain and France due to the budget issues. And they do, and so yields temporarily spiked this week before coming down on the week inflation news. But the best news, of course, we've had this week is low energy prices and Goldman's forecast for $55 barrel oil next year. Mm-hmm. So that is deflationary. Everything we import from China is deflationary because they have hideous deflation since May of 2022. It's running at 3.6% annual pace now. And then I do expect the dollar to get its mojo back because, hey, we have the highest rates of all the major currencies. We still have the strongest economy, and we have far better demographics. We're pro-family in the South, the Mountain West, and we do assimilate our immigrants. Of course, Trump wants the legal kind versus the other kind. So we'll see how that all works out. But if you go to a Trump club, he usually hires foreigners to run his clubs. Because it's seasonal clubs that close, and if you hire a foreigner on a temporary work visa, you don't have to pay Social Security and other things. So that's how Mar-a-Lago's run, and that's how other seasonal clubs that Trump has are run. And so he's not anti-immigration.
No. Louis, I find it interesting that when they announced that the appeals court had put the kibosh on some of the tariffs, the market went down. Now, if the investment world thought that tariffs were bad for the economy and for financial markets, why would the market go down at the prospect of tariffs being removed?
The market just wants certainty, and tariffs provide certainty. And although we're not done with the tariffs, we got the USMCA between Mexico and Canada and the U.S. Trump keeps giving China a reprieve. The tariffs are largely still being implemented. There was a break in Europe because in exchange for dropping some barriers on industrial components, they might drop the automotive tariffs a bit. I don't know those details. They're working on that. Trump, sent a very clear shot across the bow. Britain got 10%. EU got 15%. The most amusing one was Switzerland got 39%. So we were in Costco today, and my wife bought some Swiss chocolates because they're going to be more expensive in a month. I think that's mostly about he wants onshore pharmaceuticals. So the big onshoring is automotive, pharmaceuticals, and then of course semiconductors. That investment in America is real. It's 100% depreciation if you break ground. It looks like it's happening.
Yeah. Louis, the last GDP report showed a 3.3% year-over-year increase, which is pretty darn good. Do you think that growth is going to continue? Will we see a downward trend of growth of GDP or upward trend?
Well, we had mixed results this week. ISM manufacturing improved, but still under 50. But there's some green shoots in that report. ISM services improved more dramatically, and that's a good sign. But the preliminary trade numbers.
Tell the listening audience, if you will, Louis, what ISM is, what it measures, and what it tells us.
It's the Institute of Supply Management, and it's a Purchasing Manager Index. It's the best survey out there. There's other surveys, but that's the best. And the manufacturing index has unfortunately been contracting quite a bit. But there's some green shoots, so maybe we'll get above that. Obviously, automotive and aerospace are huge, but actually home building's huge too. Home building stalling, and we need rates to come down, and because there's a lot of durable goods and bits that go into homes. So, that's an important survey. The services survey is a bigger deal because we're a service economy. About 70% of our revenue is tied to services, and we had a pretty big jump, and it's improved for the last 3 months, so that's good. And then finally, we did have preliminary trade deficit news, and it surged quite a bit because imports surged and exports were pretty flat. So we export a lot of fossil fuels, and energy prices are soft. So even if we boost our exports, the lower prices impacted that. The funny thing about our GDP calculations is trade took over 4% off the first quarter GDP growth. It's boosting the second quarter GDP growth, and it's going to still have a big impact on third quarter GDP growth. But the tax cuts are kicking in, and People should have more money in their pocket, but people want certainty. They don't want uncertainty. And they're going to keep attacking the administration, and but you can see the administration's doesn't mess around.
Yeah. Yeah, the ISM, Louis, is pretty near and dear to my heart because it helped me make a decision once. I've told this on the air many times, but twice in my 45-year career have I actually removed clients' assets from the market on a wholesale basis and went to cash temporarily because I'm not a timer. I don't believe that works for anybody. But that was May of 2002 and August 16th of 2007. And in 2007, I had studied that subprime issue, and I had actually shared on this program, if it trickled down to the consumer level, we could go into recession. Well, I was at my place at the beach on a Thursday with my notebook computer watching CNBC, and I know you tell me I need to watch another network. But they released the ISM, and it was 50, and I said, okay, time to move out. So I sold out all of my advisory clients, went to cash temporarily. And Friday, the market went up 250 because the Fed came in with liquidity. It went up Monday and Tuesday. And as I'm meeting with clients explaining what we did, why we did, they would say, you think we made a mistake because the market was good? I said, no, I think there's more shoes to drop on this issue. And the rest is history. Obviously, in hindsight, it was a good move. I didn't know it was a good move at the time.
Yeah.
But it did end up being.
They have one indicator that's still flashing red, so we got to keep an eye on it. I love the Conference Board survey for consumers' confidence. I don't like the University of Michigan. So there are some important surveys out there. The economic data we get is questionable, and hopefully the payroll report tomorrow will not be that good. We're in an environment where bad news is good news because we want not only the Fed to cut on September 17th, we want them to continue to cut. I think we need to give Governor Chris Waller really credit. He went on Bloomberg for 30 minutes and explained the problems in the labor market before the labor market's downward revisions that eventually got the head of the Labor Department fired. And the Labor Department has these wild seasonal revisions. And so we'll see what the payroll report is on Friday. We'll see what the revisions are, but we have not been creating jobs in America in the past 3 months. We'll see what August holds. So there's definitely a Fed rate cut coming. You saw it with the JOLTS report. Job openings are below COVID levels. So it's and we also had a Beige Book survey which showed all 12 regions are flat to down. Okay, and so. It's time to start cutting rates. It's the credit risk economy all goes back to this Dodd-Frank bill. I'm an ex-banking regulator, and Dodd-Frank destroyed banking. If you don't have a credit score above 800, you can't get a loan from a bank. But if you're like 798, they'll refer you to somebody else, and they'll give you a higher rate loan, and then you'll end up in the private credit industry, which just happens to be a $3 trillion a year industry, and about 10% of our GDP. And private credit is still paying 11% yields. They are leveraging these loans to get these outrageous yields. The default rate, last I looked, was 7.2% leveraged loans. Might be headed higher. So it's getting interesting out there, okay? And if we do have any kind of fiasco in private credit, this is Blackstone and BlackRock and, Blue Owl and all these big players, Ares Capital. If we have any kind of crack, the Fed's going to have to cut 100 basis points ASAP. So we really do want to keep an eye on this because it's shocking to people how dangerous the long end of the Treasury yield is. I think the iShares 20-year ETF, Treasury ETF, is TLT. I got the symbol right. But, it's down, in the past few years, over 48%. Okay.
Right.
And Janet Yellen had abandoned the long end of the Treasury yield curve, and she mismanaged it, and it bounced around, and she just issued intermediate short-term stuff. Scott Bess is trying to wrangle this and get this under control. And obviously, when yields fall, we should make a lot of money. But the fact that you can lose half your money in treasuries in one of the most popular treasury ETFs is shocking to most people. And so we do got to get this under control. And the Fed needs to cut rates. And the yield curves at least are steepening. And although we had a little scare early in the week, by the end of the week, treasury yields are falling on some of the economic news. Good.
Yeah, we had a weak ADP already, and the jobs report tomorrow, depending on how weak it is. Of course, I'm just a little podunk advisor in Eastern North Carolina. I don't know anything. I just read a lot and listen to a lot of people. But I believe we could see a cut immediately, and then another one at the meeting, or either a 50-point basis cut, the meeting, and another one later to get the accelerator pressed.
Yeah, we would have to have horrific news for 50 basis point cut. It also might undermine the confidence in the Fed because obviously they're behind the curve now. They had dissent last meeting. We're getting the cut though, because Powell signaled it, and before Powell signaled, I counted 5 that would be for the cut. So with Powell now, we're going to get a majority. We're going to get a new dot plot, and that's going to forecast how many rate cuts we have. The most important thing Powell said at Jackson Hole is that the Fed was 100 basis points above the neutral rate. So that implied we could cut up to 4 times, or a full 1% cut in the upcoming months. So that dot plot's going to confirm whether we're going to have 3 or 4 cuts, and we'll see.
Louis, you're not a permabull, but you are positive about things most times, and you are now, actually, from the videos and things I've read that you've written through the end of the year and first quarter next year. You're seeing a positive market. How positive are you, and what do you see occurring? What particular areas might be better?
Yeah, I should be clear why I'm positive. I'm positive because earnings are still growing at a double-digit pace. Looks like we had a big productivity gain in the second quarter, big upward revision to over 3% productivity growth. I think earlier it was 2.4. The AI is probably causing a lot of that. But we had the biggest surprises in 39 years, according to Ed Yardeni. So that was a big deal. And so we saw positive analyst estimates, and we still have double-digit earnings growth, but it's still a narrow market. I just updated my quarterly back testing of my stock grader. What we do is we have to test our models to know how deep we can dive. And you still got to be in the top 25% of our quantitative model, which is our overall grade. But my fundamental models, I have an 8-factor fundamental model that ranks stocks on sales growth, margin expansion, earnings stability, earnings momentum, cash flow, return on equity, ounce earnings revisions, earnings surprises. And that particular model, I don't know if I mentioned return on equity, that was another one, but that particular model has tightened up, and you want to be in the top 15%. So there's been some mean reversion kicking in the market, and mean reversion is what the Citadel, the James Streets, the Virtue Financials, the market makers do to kind of create artificial liquidity. And so it started the Friday before Labor Day, and then it continued this week, and then now it seems to be reversing. So we got to be really careful here. We normally are bumpy going into September 15th because people have to pay their estimated tax payments, and first half of September is a very weak seasonal month. But the second half of September is positive. And I hate August, but I had an up month for August, so that's good. Especially in small cap. So I'm very comfortable and confident, but my best defense is strong offense.
I agree. I bought ISR based on your recommendation, and it is since I bought it, by the way. You still bullish on that particular company?
Yeah, yeah, looks fine. Looks just fine.
Are they pulling rare earth minerals out now? I mean, on a wholesale basis, or are they? What are
Well,
they
first of all,
doing?
I think you meant to say IDR. Okay,
IDR, yes,
and
I'm sorry.
IDR is one of 7 gold stocks I recommend, and they have rare earth mineral reserves that they're contracting with another company. You may know MP Materials, which is the one the government invested in, still has negative forecasted sales and earnings. So I don't want to go near that right now. But IDR is not only a great gold play, it's a rare earth mineral play as well. But that is not being monetized yet, but they are signing contracts with somebody to monetize it.
Mm-hmm. All right, little different trick. If we get an agreement between, which we want, Putin is totally unreliable in my opinion, and I can't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. But if we did get a peace agreement with Ukraine and Russia, what do you think that would do with the market?
Well, we get a peace dividend and we rally. You know, obviously, defense stocks are very important. I have Elbit System, ESLT. I have Planetary Technologies, PLTR. I have Howmet Aerospace, HWM. I have CRS, Carpenter, that makes all kinds of titanium and other key components for planes in the military. I have companies that make things in the cockpit like ISSC, you know, but you know, it's the military is spending is still going to be very high, and we have to project strength. And you know, we're blessed that we have these oceans between us. But you know, they're going to be using the military, and they're already using the National Guard to deal with our cities. It started with Washington, D.C. Apparently, it's going to Chicago soon. And they've been using National Guard, of course, in California. And then, of course, we diverted some Navy ships to slow down the cocaine trafficking. You know, they blew up a regular boat, but speedboat, but you know, they also have the cocaine submarines. And so, as I understand it, the enforcement on the border is diverting a lot of the drug flow to Canada, and Trump's going to cut it all off. And Rubio was in Mexico City, reassuring the president of Mexico that we're not going to do an internal strike in Mexico. But it's funny, it's all over YouTube that we're doing that, and that's not been verified. But somebody's having fun insinuating we're doing it. We're sure flying a lot of big drones over in and around Mexico. It's always in the 12-mile airspace off the coast, but it goes up the Baja Peninsula, and they are doing their best to intimidate people. So it's going to be interesting what happens. You know, some of the cartel members, you know, obviously Mexico's run by cartels, and including their hotels and things. Some of the cartel members were trained by the U.S. Marines. And then we're in Ukraine, and they're getting pretty good at drone technology. So these are very formidable adversaries. So this is going to be interesting. But I'm sure we're putting both Canada and Mexico into recession right now as we fight these wars. Right. So Trump is not messing around. I do have a friend you've seen on TV many times that's a UFO expert. He worked for Bush 41 and Clinton, and he got a certification from Kash Patel recently. And we're just wondering if Trump doesn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, maybe he'll come out and try to save us from the space aliens. So, because he can always release that. You know, right now the problem with social media, he's competing with Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. So, you know, because there's only so much space in social media. And
Well, Louis, I've got some
uh,
music in my ear. That means I'm out of
yeah,
time. I'm sorry. But as always, extremely informative. Thank you so much for taking your
thank
time.
you.
I know your time is worth lots of money. I appreciate it very much. And hopefully
Great.
have you back on maybe in a few.
Thanks, Jim.